Hey, this is Dirk Nowitzki, and you're listening to the Mavs Step Back Podcast.
I like this, TK. I like that. Yeah, it's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk get the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. Luka with the ball, yeah, get nasty. He'll drop 30, don't gotta ask him.
Luka with the step back three. Oh, yeah! Porzingis three-pointer, yes, sir. Taking the three after the pump fake, and it's money for Porzingis.
Now you got my boy Chris Stabs, looking like Dirk and Nash in the gap. They just want a ring, wanna fill the gap on your team head. I ain't talking hats, dang, go relax. Still at the champ, defense still coming with the cannabis flow. The man's the best on the flow.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm joined, as always, by my Dallas Basketball and Sports Illustrated colleague, Matt Galatson. The Mavs completely destroyed the Golden State Warriors tonight. Matt, that was a really easy game to write a recap for. We've got that up on MavsSI.com right now. Luka put up 22, 5, and 5 in the first quarter alone. He put up 35, 6, and 5 in the first half. And he eventually got that triple-double, which was a second consecutive triple-double. And he became the first player in NBA history to have a 35-point triple-double in 25 minutes. So, he's putting up these huge numbers. He's doing it quickly. He's doing it efficiently most times. There's really not much more we can say about Luka Doncic so far. He continues to play like an MVP. I really don't think this is a hot streak. I think this has just become the normal now. He worked on his body over the summer, and he's on a roll right now, and it doesn't look like he's stopping anytime soon.
Stop! He's already dead.
That's exactly what happened tonight.
Yeah, no, it was a complete and utter beatdown, and I loved it. Luka was amazing. That's like I was watching the game, and that's like the first thing that came to my mind was just like.
And by the way, just for context, because I don't think we've actually said it yet, but the final score was 142-94. So
yeah, it was a beatdown. It's nice to see because one of the big complaints we had, early in the year was when they played bad teams, they kind of played down to the level of the bad teams, and when they played good teams, they played up to the level of the good teams, but they never really were able to separate themselves from opponents. And we've seen 2 games in a row. I know San Antonio came down, kind of towards the end, but they were up double digits for most of that game, and then the Warriors, they just completely blew out of the water. So I think they really found their stride tonight. I know the Warriors are terrible, and it's not a huge barometer for success, but like when you lose 2 games to the Knicks that you aren't supposed to lose, and then you come back and you beat a team that you're supposed to beat like that, they came out of those disappointing losses to the Knicks on the other side, and it looks like they've kind of figured some things out, and that's really important.
Right, and even before that Spurs win, they had the defending champs. Of course, they don't have Kawhi Leonard anymore, and I believe Kyle Lowry was out for that game too. But, you have a veteran, basically 2 veteran teams in the Raptors and the Spurs. The Raptors have been good regardless of losing Kawhi Leonard already. They're one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference.
And they don't have Serge Ibaka either.
They what now?
They don't have Serge Ibaka either. He's been hurt, so.
Right, and they've still been really good. One of the best teams in the Eastern Conference so far. I believe they're top 4 right now. So, big win over the Raptors to start out the homestand. Had a big win over the Spurs. I think if I remember correctly, the Spurs had won 4 or 5 straight games over the Mavs until that point.
Yep.
And so that was good to, get the monkey off their back there. And then, like you said tonight, the Warriors, they only dressed 8 players. And they were also on the second night of a back-to-back. They beat Memphis by 20 last night, which after watching tonight, you wonder, like, how in the world did this team beat the Memphis Grizzlies by 20 points?
Because Memphis is really bad.
But I mean, come on. I mean, the Golden State Warriors team that the Mavs played tonight was basically like an expansion team.
Yeah, it was. It was like Eric Pascal.
Bad.
Is it Eric Pascal?
No, I can't say anything bad about him. That dude's been good.
Well, no, that's what I'm
he's
saying.
Looking like a steal.
It was Eric Pascal and
Kai Bowman.
It was Eric Pascal and their D League affiliate, basically, is what it was.
Right. Yeah,
was,
and
it was bad.
I think I saw ESPN's Tim McMahon. I think it was after the first quarter when Luka had 22, 5, and 5. He said, well, I think this answers the question, or something to the effect. He said, I think this answers the question how Luka would play in the G League.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if those G League guys could stop Luka.
No. Absolutely. I mean, I know you were being sarcastic there, but no.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great to see, and I mean, it's the Mavs' third straight win. I think they have a really, really good chance of, sweeping this homestand, going 4-0, because they play Cleveland on Friday. They beat them by 20 in Cleveland the last time they played them a few weeks ago, and that was the game where Luka put up another massive triple-double. It was like 29, 15, and 14. So you have to like their chances there. They're 9-5 on the season. As of right now, I'm looking at the standings. They're 6th in the West, and they could potentially move up to 5th, I think, depending on how the rest of these games unfold tonight. So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, it's this homestand was really important because there was challenge involved with Toronto and San Antonio. I know San Antonio has been playing great lately, but I mean they're still coached by Greg Popovich, so they're still a dangerous basketball team, and Toronto's always a test. And then you wanted to see them handle their business against the Warriors, and on Friday against Cleveland we'll see, but it's they look like they've taken some steps. But, I mean, I don't want this to come off as, me being snarky or whatever. I still don't think this team is very near being complete. I think you would agree with that. But, I still think that there's things they could do to get better. And, just because they're on a hot streak doesn't mean they can't, still get better and be aggressive.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I've mentioned it in one of our previous pods. I can't remember if it was the Orlando or it was the last time you guys heard from us. We were completely devastated from that first Knicks loss. And it was a weird thing, because we do a weekly podcast. And so it was one of those weird things where the following Thursday they played the Knicks again. And they lost to the Knicks again. And we were just like, you know what? We're not even recording tonight because that's going to be 2 straight. We were pretty heated, and we didn't want to give you guys consecutive negative pods. So it was that's one reason for the gap here. But it's like I said in one of those previous pods. That's one of the encouraging signs is that yes, they're not as good as they could be, but Matt, look where they're at. They're 9-5. They're 9-5 after 14 games.
Yeah.
And there's so much room for improvement. And that's just not even, considering potential trades or anything that they could make later this season. So
yeah, and I think that had they had the 1 or 2 extra pieces that we've been talking about potentially, not even necessarily you had a really good article that you put out about how they could trade for Blake Griffin. I'm not even talking about something on that level, but
right.
I mean, you guys know who I'm referring to. But the point is, had they had that 1 or 2 extra guys off the bench, all of their losses have been so close that it's, had they had that extra help, they could potentially be undefeated or very damn near close to it. And
right.
that's good. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, especially in these last couple of games, I think you've kind of seen it more than you have at any other point in the season. Rick Carlisle's just kind of, said, you know what, I'm not going to interfere at all. I'm going to let Luka completely take over and do whatever he wants to do. And
it's been great. It's
has.
almost like he listened to our last podcast.
It has. And, obviously there's parts of the game where he has to get involved and, he's involved in the game plan and all that stuff. And he's direct. They plan on what Luka's going to do. Luka doesn't just go out there and go Harlem Globetrotters all over the place. Like there's a purpose behind everything he does. But Rick has kind of been a better version of what was at the beginning of the season when we were getting so frustrated. The lineups have been more consistent. I think that's been huge. Obviously, Seth Curry was not playing in this game because of an illness, but he started 3 games in a row, which has been very big. We have a consistent. The lineup has had a very consistent way of how the rotations have worked, which wasn't always the case earlier in the year. So it's been really nice to see, and they finally, the players feel like they're getting used to playing in the groups that they're being put out there with on the floor. I do wish Justin Jackson was getting a few more minutes, but that's another topic entirely. Yeah, it's been great.
If they continue to win games, we won't complain as much about that as what we were a week or so ago. But you would like to see him, get a little bit more minutes. And Tim Hardaway Jr. he stepped in for Seth Curry as a starter tonight, and he poured in 20 points on 6 of 7 from the field. He hit all 4 of his threes. It's really been, we've both been critical of Hardaway Jr. So far this season, but it's not really, it's basically what we should have expected all along. He's a really streaky player. He might have a night where he might not hit a shot, and then he might have a night where, he explodes for 20 plus and barely misses. So he's up to 33% from 3 right now. So it's really a weird situation with Hardaway Jr. because you don't want to put too much stock into plus minus stuff, but if you look at that, those numbers will tell you he's been a positive player this season for the Mavs when he's on the floor, despite what our eyes might tell us at times when we see him play. So I don't know. I still think the more comfortable he gets in Rick Carlisle's system, as long as he sticks to his catch and shoot, shots instead of taking really bad multiple dribble shots early in the shot clock, stuff like that. I think if he sticks to the catch and shoot role, he'll continue to increase that efficiency going forward because, like I said before the season, I think he could get back to around where he was his last season in Atlanta, before he went to the Knicks. So that's my hope at least. Maybe it won't happen, but I think the more comfortable he gets, the more of an asset he'll be, and at the very least, he'll increase his trade value. So,
yeah, that's kind of more where I'm leaning on this whole thing. But, if he plays like this, to be honest, I really hope Seth Curry. I saw something where he did have an illness, but he also had like a minor ankle injury, I think is what I saw. So I don't think it's anything serious. Hopefully he'll be inserted back into the starting lineup, but we'll see how it goes next game. Yeah. I haven't heard much. I assume it's nothing that serious. Otherwise, it wouldn't be described as just an illness.
And look, I'm gonna completely change the topic here because I'm thinking about it, but I don't want us to finish this pod or go into the second half of it with our guest tonight without saying it. But Kristaps Porzingis, he didn't score a lot tonight. He scored 14 points. He was 6 of 14 from the field, but he got 10 rebounds and 2 blocks, and that was his 4th consecutive double-double. He's never done that before in his entire career.
Okay, yes, this is actually something I wanted to talk about too that I'm glad you brought up.
Good.
Because one of the big knocks on him that our buddy Kirk Henderson before the season started was like, well, if he could just get 6 rebounds a game, I'll be happy. Well, he's done that, and right now he's averaging after tonight he's averaging 9 a game, 8.9 a game, and
which is great.
And he's got so he's basically a 19-9 player. He's got a 16.23 player efficiency rating, and he's averaging. See, how many blocks is he averaging?
It's like 2.4, I think.
Yeah, so
a little under that.
He's doing all the things we want him to do, and he's really, really come on, especially over these last few games. And he still hasn't quite turned that corner, but man, he's right on the cusp of taking that big turn, and you can tell that he's getting comfortable. And once he gets comfortable and makes that turn, he's going to be a scary player.
The biggest thing for me with Porzingis is that he. And I mean, maybe, once he starts to round into his normal self, what he was before the injury, and he's scoring 20-plus every night and all that, maybe it'll change. But, as of right now, he's been, really understanding of what his situation is. He's been very realistic about it. He doesn't get down on himself. He might criticize himself, but he never gets down on himself. He's been playing a lot harder here lately, which is great to see. And it's almost like he has accepted his, the second best player role on this team. It's not like a 1A, 1B situation with him and Luka. It's like, okay, Luka is absolutely the best player on this team. This is his team. And I'm the second best player, and I know he's going to get me, my looks and everything. So that's been great to see too. It's not going to be like a power struggle between those two going forward. I don't think.
No, I don't anticipate that. You can tell when you watch them on the floor that there's times where they're not always on the same page, and that's to be expected. The two, they've only played 14 games together ever. So
right.
they're still feeling each other out.
What's so crazy about all this?
Yeah, and there's a few times where KP does look a little frustrated because he's sitting there, and I get frustrated too because he's sitting there open, and it's not just when Luka has the ball, but there's plenty of times where KP's just sitting there open, waving his arms like, "Hey, dudes, I'm open. Give me the ball. I'm a sniper out here. Just let me take my shot." And they'll go. They don't see him. They'll go away from him, and that'll get cleaned up as the season progresses. But you can tell they really like playing together. And
there was one play that really stuck out to me tonight, and I really think we'll start to see more of it going forward too. But Luka was driving on the right side of the floor. He was driving to the basket, and KP was in the far corner opposite of him. And instead of just standing still in the corner, KP dove towards the basket. And Luka threw up a lob to him. He didn't even have control of the ball. It was like during his dribble. He just kind of palmed it up towards Porzingis, and he finished the alley-oop. And, I mean, it was such a beautiful play. And I think we're going to start to see more of that going forward. Instead of KP just staying still in the corner, if he knows Luka is going to be going all the way to the basket, go in and get you an easy finish like that.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The way that Luka has been so aggressive, he can tell when his shot's not going to be falling. So the way he's been so aggressive in getting to the rim this season and getting to the free throw line has been amazing. He's so much stronger. He's so much more athletic than he was last season because he lost all that baby fat, and you can really really tell it's made a difference.
when the last time we had Will Kane on, he was talking about how for the Mavs to be, successful this season, for them to make the playoffs, that everybody, aside from Luka and KP, have to play a step up from, what they actually are. And that's one of the benefits of Luka playing like an MVP right now. He's playing so well, and he's drawing so much attention that he is getting all of his teammates really, really good looks. And their confidence is just through the roof right now. So, I mean, that's what's happening, is all these players, aside from Luka and KP, are playing a notch above, where they're supposed to be. And you see the results in the win and loss column. So that's been really great to see, and I think it's sustainable. I haven't seen anything from any opponent so far this season other than that stinker they dropped in Denver, and they still won.
Well, the Knicks.
The team still won. Well, I'm just talking about individual performance, like with Luka. I'm talking about stopping Luka. The Denver game is the only game that I can recall that he was contained.
Yeah.
I don't see how anybody can contain him the rest of this season.
The only match, I mean, there's certain matchups that I'm still concerned about going forward. One of them's coming up very soon, on Tuesday, against the Clippers. Having Kawhi and Paul George is going to be very difficult.
But Matt, we blew out the Clippers in the preseason.
Okay, thank you, Irrational Confidence guy. So that's obviously going to be a very tough test. And the Clippers, I think, are probably going to be the worst matchup for the Mavericks all season long of any team they face when they're healthy, because of those two guys and because of Montrezl Harrell and because obviously Lou Williams is just a nightmare. So it'll be interesting to see on Tuesday how they stack up with a team like the Clippers, because...
Well, the thing that works in their favor against the Clippers is that, one, Paul George has been out for the majority of this season. Tonight is just his fourth game of the season. He's playing against the Celtics. And also the load management situation with Kawhi Leonard. It feels like Kawhi is just playing every other game. And so they're really not, I don't know, they're really not building that much chemistry. They're more beatable than people think right now. That may not be the case, later this season once they get into the playoffs and all of their guys are playing all the time. But, I mean, you look at the Mavs, as we sit right now, the Mavs and the Clippers have the same exact record at 9-5. And the Clippers are currently down by 2 to the Celtics in the third quarter. So
the Celtics have the best record in the NBA right now.
Right. Yeah, they've been amazing. They have, as it turns out, losing Kyrie Irving and adding Kemba Walker was, a great idea. But okay, so if the Clippers lose tonight, the Mavs will have a better record than the Clippers. And to me, that's crazy. That just speaks to there's more question marks around the Clippers in the regular season than there is to when they get to the playoffs. I think it was it you that said in our preseason predictions that you thought the Clippers would be one of the lower seeds, or who said that?
I have them winning the title. Over.
I didn't mean that. I just meant I had them winning the title too, but I don't. One of us, I can't remember who said it, but we had them, not having the best regular season, not the best playoff seeding.
Oh no, I think they'll be the 2 or 3 seed, because I do think it's going to take them a little while to get. It won't be until the second half of the season where they really hit their stride. I think it was a pod with Kirk, I think, where we talked about it. Where I think
maybe that's who I'm thinking. Maybe Kirk said that they wouldn't have the best regular season.
Yeah, I think he had Denver in first and someone else in second. I can't remember. But I think
Houston.
I think I had Houston as the number 1 seed and the Clippers as the 2 seed. Maybe I don't know. I can't remember.
It's late.
But they're going to be a dangerous team, and I just from a personnel standpoint, I'm interested to see how Luka holds up with both of those guys being out there, if indeed they both play.
Right. Oh, and just to add a little bit, as of last night, the Celtics no longer have the best record. It's the Lakers by half a game, but they'll be tied with the Lakers if they can hold on and beat the Clippers. So
yeah,
but still, it's kind of crazy how those two teams always become relevant again at the same time.
Yeah, they're always competing with each other, even if they don't want you to think so.
I still think that the finals are going to end up being the Clippers and the Bucks, but as much as, how do I need to say this? As wide open as everything is this season, it wouldn't shock me at all if we got another Lakers Celtics NBA Finals.
That would really piss me off.
I don't know. I kind of like it. I like the history of it.
The history can suck it.
And I saw somebody. I think it was Josh Eberly on Twitter. He said something about it was kind of cool to see the Mavs and Heat starting to become decent again at the same time too. So it's weird how that all happens. And if if we ended up with a Mavs Heat finals this year, we'd both be going nuts, and these pod listens would be going even more through the roof. So let's go ahead and root for that.
Yeah, definitely. Also,
sorry, I had to get that out real quick.
Also, this is completely off topic, but whatever. It's a nighttime pod. Did you see where JJ, like the crowd was chanting, "We want JJ" when the Mavs were up like 48 or whatever?
Yeah.
He got up and pretended to run in, and then Luka just was dying laughing.
Yeah, he was acting like, yeah, I'm going in. He's like, nah, just kidding.
Somebody just texted that to me, so I hadn't seen it before because I was watching I had to work late and at my other job, so I was at the office late, and I had watched the ESPN broadcast, and they didn't show that. I had to listen to Stan Van Gundy, and it was miserable.
I don't mind Stan, but like I told you earlier, he can get off on some of the most random rants that don't matter at all, and that's when I start to just kind of tune him out a little bit. But overall, I don't mind him. It's better than Reggie Miller. It's better than Reggie Miller, who calls Luka Doncic donk itch. That's what he said. I think it was what was that TNT game? Who did they play?
I think it was the Knicks game.
Yeah. It was the second Knicks loss. He said that's why the Mavs lost that game, is because Reggie Miller kept saying donk itch, like his butt itched or something. Like just so bad. And then you had Marv Albert sitting right beside him saying it correctly, and he was still saying donk itch.
Yeah,
anyway.
And it's kind of annoying because they're, as far as national broadcasts go, most of them are pretty terrible. Like all the ESPN ones are terrible. I mean, all the TNT ones are terrible. Like the only announcers that I can think of that I like the only one I can think of is Doris Burke.
Yeah.
Everyone else sucks.
I really like the ESPN broadcast, to be honest. I mean, like I said, I every now and then when Jeff Van Gundy does that thing, like I said, when he goes off on these random
fouls on 3-pointers should only count as 2 points.
Yeah, that's Luka started this game tonight against the Warriors by getting fouled on a 3-point shot, and that's the first thing that Jeff Van Gundy started talking about, was how he read an article on the Ringer and he agreed with it that players getting fouled on 3-point shots should only get 2 free throws. And I'm thinking, like, no.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
You get fouled on a 3-point shot, you get 3 points. I mean, that's just it. There's no debate about this.
It's just
anyway.
just dumb.
All right. Well, look, we've we've probably rambled on about way too much, and we've gotten completely off topic. So we're going to probably just, close this half here. And then, guys, stay with us, because on the second side of this, we're going to be talking to our guy, Andrew Bishop Jr., a.k.a. 66 Drew. He does all of our Mavs Step Back Podcast intros, and he has a new album out, his first ever official album called Save My Soul. We're going to talk to him about that too. So stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. We've got a treat for you tonight. You've probably heard him many times already. He does some great intros for our pod. We feature some of his music on here, give you guys a little preview when he's working on something new. It's Andrew Bishop Jr., a.k.a. 66 Drew. Drew, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Matt and I, we always feel a lot better doing these pods, especially after the Mavs get a big win like they did against the Warriors tonight. And they're on a 3-game winning streak, and they're 9-5 on the season. Everything's good right now, so we're doing good. Matt?
Doing great, man. Long day. It's nice to have an easy win. I'm excited to talk to Drew about his new album, which is banging. So, yeah, it's a good night.
So, Drew, just to get a couple of Mavs thoughts in here from you. I mean, what have you seen from the team so far? And I mean, what do you think their ceiling is this season?
Honestly, man, they look real solid. They look real solid. I think after Dirk retired, and I'm a big Luka fan now, so after Dirk retired, them getting another European player and Luka Doncic, man, it just like they picked right off, like they picked right up after Dirk left.
Right.
They didn't really lose a step in that area. But some of the guys that I've liked so far personally that I've always kept an eye on, Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Justin Jackson. I like those 3 players, man. I like to see them play.
Yeah.
But Luka's definitely my favorite, man.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier today too. I mean, it's really crazy. You go from Dirk to Luka pretty much overnight. There's no space in between. I mean, Mavs fans are like, that's about as lucky as you can get. So I mean, that's great. The players you mentioned, they've had a good season so far. I'll say this about Tim Hardaway Jr. If you look at the box scores, I mean, he's been more of a plus than anything this season, despite having some really, really bad shooting nights. But it's like, he's a streaky player. So, he went one game, one of the last few games, he didn't even make a shot. And then, tonight he went 6 of 7 from the field and made all 4 of his threes. So, I mean, when he's hot, he's hot. And I saw somebody joke tonight, and Matt, you can chime in on this one, but I think it was my guy Josh Bowe over at Mavs Moneyball. Seth Curry, he didn't play tonight because of an illness, and he had been starting. I think it was like 3 or 4 games in a row he had started at shooting guard. And Tim Hardaway Jr. Started at shooting guard tonight, and he said, well, Seth Curry is not starting again for the rest of the season now.
Hey, I mean, Tim's definitely a Rick Carlisle guy, so Josh might be onto something there, but he played really well tonight. So, I mean, given how streaky he is, I wouldn't expect this every single night. But if he can continue playing this way, I mean, he was plus 33. I mean, it was a blowout, so everybody was plus whatever, like plus 1 million. But at the same time, it's like it's nice to see him play that well, because he's when he's on, he's really hard to stop.
Yeah, when you win by 50, I mean, everybody's plus minus is going to be up there, but he's gotten his 3-point shooting up to 33% on the season now. So I said before the season it needs to be around 35 for him to get a good bit of consecutive minutes. So he's getting there. He started out pretty slow, but he's getting there. And Drew, you who did you grow up rooting for? I know you're a MFFL now, and you're a big Luka fan, and the Mavs fan community has just embraced you and your music over the last 3, 4, 5 months now. And I mean, I'm just curious about, like, when you were growing up. I mean, obviously you saw Dirk from time to time, but who were you a fan of growing up?
It's hard to say because I never really became a fan of a certain team. I did become I liked OKC for a little while, but I was more interested in like certain players rather than, just,
Right.
the whole team. But I can tell you a few players that I've enjoyed watching other than, Dirk. Kobe Bryant is definitely one of the players I love watching. Derrick Rose before all the injuries. Russell Westbrook. I like LeBron's post game and stuff like that.
Right.
And those are just, and of course I watched Dirk too. And Kevin Garnett, that whole, can't think of the right word for it.
Era.
But that whole little era of the Celtics greats around the 2009.
Right.
About around 2009 time.
Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, that group.
Yeah, I like that group, man. I used to like to watch them. Me and my dad would always watch them. But those are just a few players that I've liked, watching. And even when I was, still playing basketball competitively, I love to like try to model some of their aspects, man.
Yeah. That was such a great time in basketball. And don't get me wrong, I still watch a ton of NBA basketball today, and I like a lot of different players, not just Mavs players. There's other players I like around the league too, but and I like the way the Mavs are playing right now and the style and all that, but it's just hard to beat that era of basketball where you had all those greats going at it, and there was a lot of really intense playoff battles, and I mean it was just a great time, and it's a real big part of my childhood. So Matt, what about you?
Well, I mean, obviously I've been a Dallas guy forever, but I went to college in Mississippi, and I was there for longer than the 4 years that I was supposed to be. And
I'm right there with you, man.
It's really interesting, living there for a little while, getting the feel of how people there are about their sports. And I really enjoyed it because everybody there has a different team or they have a different player that they follow. Like, being in Oxford, because I went to Ole Miss, like, everybody was a Giant, or not everybody, but a lot of people were Giants fans because of Eli, or they were
Right.
Saints fans because of Deuce McAllister and Archie, or people were St. Louis Cardinals fans and Tennessee Titans fans and Braves fans, and so it was cool, because obviously they don't have a professional sports team there, but what it does is it creates this kind of environment that everybody's very different in their who they cheer for and their taste. I mean, obviously when it comes down to college, everybody's Ole Miss, Mississippi State, or Southern Miss pretty much.
To the top.
But I really enjoyed it, and I got to kind of, because they don't play the Cowboys there either. They don't really play the Mavericks there on TV, so I got to watch a lot of other teams that I wouldn't have normally watched. But like, I mean, growing up, I was a Jordan fan, obviously, because that was my era, because I'm older than both of y'all significantly. And but yeah, I mean, and then obviously Dirk, because he's just the GOAT. So
Yeah, it's really funny because, like, with me, I was a really big basketball fan first. It wasn't until around I was like 9, 10 years old that I really started paying more attention to the Mavs. I had seen them from afar, but I was born and raised here in Mississippi, and then my first ever Mavs game was that 2005 Western Conference Finals. It was Game 5 with the Suns and the Mavs, and it was Dirk versus Nash, and that great rivalry. And I think that was the night Dirk put up 50 points in Game 5, and I was up in the nosebleeds, and I was just like, man, this this is crazy. So that's when I got hooked on the Mavs. But like I said, I've been a basketball fan my whole life. I appreciate all the great players that have come through, and I mean it's really fun to get to talk with different people and see what their background is in that respect. So, Drew, we're glad you talked with us a little bit about that, and now we're going to move on to some music stuff because as most of you guys know, because we've been retweeting it from the pod account and our own personal accounts on Twitter and everything, but Drew just released his first official album. It's called Save My Soul. It's got the track Luka Doncic on there, which you guys have heard a little bit of. We play it on the pod sometimes. So, Drew, just talk to us a little bit about your album and where the inspiration came from, and how does it feel to have your first official album out there? Because I mean, like Matt said at the beginning, it's really, really good stuff.
Oh man, it feels great, man. I'm just still been working like crazy in the studio and stuff, but the inspiration came from, I don't know, man. We just had I was just in the studio one day, and just came to me, Save My Soul, because when it comes to the music industry, it's really no secret of how dirty it can be.
Right.
So it's basically saying, even though I'm representing the good side, and even though, I'm good, I'm a good person myself, and I have good intentions myself, it's basically just asking God to, save me from all of the bad stuff that's about to come with the good stuff that I'm going to attain. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah,
basically that's kind of the concept.
And that's one thing I really, respect about your music. It not only is it just fire, like it's really, really good stuff, but I mean, it's also, like you said, it has more meaning to it. It's not just, mumbling, and like you can tell you actually put a lot of work into your lyrics and put a lot of thought into it, and it's personal. And I mean, it's just really great to hear. And I mean, I personally think you're going to continue to, keep soaring up, and we're glad we've, connected with you at the beginning of this year. It's been a crazy ride. So, I mean, I wish nothing but the best for you going forward. Matt?
Yeah, that's, I don't really know what to say about the album that you guys already didn't say. I mean, it's great. Obviously, I'm a little biased towards the Luka Doncic track because, I mean, I get a shout out. So like, how can I not?
Y'all go listen to Nowadays. I think that's probably my favorite track on the album. If I had to pick, yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one right now, I'd pick Nowadays. So y'all go check it out.
If my name was in Nowadays, it might be my favorite, but my name is in Luka Doncic, so I can't. That's my favorite. But that's my favorite thing about Drew's music is, a lot of the. I mean, I don't consider myself an expert necessarily on music in general, but I listen to mostly rap music, and I'm not always a huge fan of what people put out today because a lot of it's what they call mumble rap, and I hate mumble rap. I think it's terrible, and a lot of the new artists that come up are into that kind of stuff, and it drives me crazy. But Drew's stuff is real. It's lyrical. It has a meaning behind it, and it's something that a lot of people aren't putting out. It reminds me of all these other artists that I actually enjoy listening to, like Logic and Eminem, and just anybody like that. It's real music. J. Cole, all that stuff. There's meaning behind their music, and you can tell that there's real message behind what Drew's saying, and he's telling a story. And I really enjoy stuff like that.
Yeah, and
thank you so much. But I wanna give props to the 3 producers that helped me produce it, man. Well, they produced it for me. They produced the album. My producer, Cortland, goes by Noon. My other guy, Rick, and my other guy, Titus, it goes by Toquay. I want to give him a shout out, man, because I couldn't do the project alone, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good album, and I can't stress enough how, you know, how I want people listening to go give it a listen. It's on all the major platforms. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, you know, pretty much anywhere you can find it. It's going to be there. But I think that Nowadays track that I like so much, is Rick the one that produced that one?
Yes, sir. Rick is the one that produced that one.
Yeah. That, I don't know, man. I just, for whatever reason, I can't stop listening to that one.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too on the album.
But other than that, I mean, what can we expect, you know, going forward? I mean, is there more new music on the horizon, or when would you expect to, you know, do a second album? Because I know this stuff doesn't happen overnight, and then, you know, there's months and months of, you know, work put into it. When can we expect a follow-up album?
It's hard to give a time frame. I want to say next year,
Right.
around summertime. That's what I want to do. But we do have a new artist that we're working with on Team 707, so we're getting his album made and put together right now. And we're also working on another album for the label with, you know, a lot of different artists that we don't usually work with. So once all that is out the way, you know, and the commotion dies down from those two, you know, I'll look into working on another one.
Yeah, there a 6'6" Drew summer album just sounds amazing to me. So I really hope that happens. But
Hey Drew, I actually have a challenge for you on your next album. You need to try and rhyme my last name. Fit my last name into a song and make it rhyme.
Galatson. Okay, well but
Flaxton, Paxton.
Oh yeah,
There you
yes. Okay, so he's
man.
all right. So that's not going to be too much of a challenge. It looks like. But look, Drew, we appreciate you coming on with us and talking with us for a little bit, and we'll definitely have to have you on in the near future too. But we wanted to just have you on and talk a little bit about the Mavs and this new album, and, you know, just kind of let the fans, you know, hear you talk for a little bit, because they hear you rap all the time, but they don't get to hear you talk a lot. So this has been nice. We appreciate you coming on with us.
Thanks, man. And I gotta say one more thing. Y'all have seen me tweet it for like 2 or 3 times, but I'm gonna leave this with all Mavs fans nation, man. Luka Doncic is a future Hall of Famer, man. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm right there with you. I don't think there's any doubt about it, especially when you consider his overseas resume and what he's doing right now. I don't think it's a question. I'm right there with you, man.
Hey, did you guys see my tweet earlier tonight?
No, what'd you say?
It's pinned on my profile now. I'll read it to you. It says, "Whenever Luka retires, he'll be considered the greatest player to ever play the game."
Oh.
Hashtag write that down.
Oh. So you took it one step further.
I did. I was just watching him play, and I couldn't help myself.
Okay, well, listen, I'll give you this. If he can win the Mavs 6 championships like MJ did for the Bulls, then I'll be right there with you.
I mean, he's real good, man. He's only 20, and he's like putting up, you know, triple doubles like night after night, man. I mean, like you don't see, like, that's once in a generation type of player, man. Once in a decade, I'd say.
And he's doing it. The thing with him is he does it with such relative ease too, because it's like I saw it tonight. Mavs PR tweeted out that he became the first player in NBA history to put up a 35-point triple-double in 25 minutes of playing. So no player has ever put up that kind of stat line in the little amount of time he was out there. So not only is he putting it up, he's doing it efficiently and fast. And it's just crazy to watch him work out there. But we've got a good long season ahead of us still. The Mavs are they're about getting close to a fourth of the way through, and you know, they've got a really, really good chance to make the playoffs for the first time in 3 years, and it'll be fun. But Drew, again, we appreciate it. We're going to let you take off now. We won't hold you any longer, but again, we'll have to have you on in the near future. We appreciate you talking with us, man.
All right, man. Thank y'all so much for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you later, man. Have a good one.
Later, Drew.
All right, everybody. Again, that's our guy, Andrew Bishop Jr., a.k.a. 66 Drew. Be sure to go check out his new album, Save My Soul. He does all of the Mavs Step Back podcast intros. He does great work there. You guys have heard him before, and now you get to hear him talk tonight. And the Mavs got a big win too, and they're 9-5 on the season, and they'll try to finish this homestand 4-0 against the Cleveland Cavaliers on Friday night, a team that they blew out by 20 the last time they played them. So, guys, we appreciate it. Come back and listen to us next week. We have a really special extra pod for you tomorrow night with a special Mavs guest. We'll see y'all next time.
A lot of times feel like I was on the road to nowhere. Tell me why all these people up in my face acting like I know them. Feeling like Luka Doncic, rookie of the year, I'm the coldest. God speaking through me every single track, prophet like Moses. Asking why I gotta wait till I'm dead to go and get my roses. Feeling like Mavs 2019, grinding unfocused. I used to go to bed at night discouraged, so hopeless. Went through the same pain, my friends chose drugs to cope with. Now I'm reading all these hating comments, man, it got me in motion. I had to whip up the potion, I ain't even with the boasting. I was just broken, way down to my lowest. Getting swallowed by them locusts, letting God do the coaching. I had to go through a lot, just to realize that I'm chosen. Carry away, felt like boulders, all of those slams shut. Had to bulldoze them, name a rapper dude who can see me over wax. I'm just trying to spit the facts, way I spit my flow, people telling me relax. I just get it double back, I just get it double back. They still asking for more and I gave them my last. Can't never seem to let go of the past, and that's sad. I just sit back and reflect. Oh my God, they really feeling the kid. Family calling on the phone, almost a star. June, look what you did. About to put Silk right back on the grid. Go kill a beat and go listen to Trig. Turn on my phone and I listen to Matt. Headphones in, sit back with a grin. Making up a profit, I don't care about the profit. I'm just teaching like a prophet, I'm just preaching like a prophet. Staying tall like I'm Doncic, sleeping on me like pajamas. I'm just trying to fill up my wallet. But what you call it, profit trying to make a profit, Everybody wanna live lavish and ball, but got no clue what it costs. I done helped a lot of people, but when I'm down, I ain't got no one to call. Had to get up and throw my feelings in the trash. Man, my heart was getting mauled. Walking on this thin roadway to my goals. Man, they praying I fall off. And I ain't feel nothing but hate.